Oh, it's on. Good morning. This is Carrie Freeman with Petey Bear, my left ear. And Petey just doesn't want to cooperate right now, but here he is. He's pretty cute. And he's not in the bedroom eating kibble. Okay, that's it for Petey. You go back to nap now. I really disturbed him. Whoa. Okay, Pete. I hope he stays quiet. All right. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time, my name is Carrie Freeman. This is my left ear. I just showed my rescue that everybody knows about, Petey Bear, and that was what that was all about. I don't start every video with my cat. So it is December 30th. This is video 66, and it is called Big Fat Lies-WHOPPERS, because I do political and psychic commentary. So here we go. If you're wondering about me, I do clinical therapeutic hypnosis. I've been doing that for over 20 years. And I do psychic coaching, which is a whole other category. And there is a video on my psychic coaching. It's video number 34. And I made one just devoted to that, how I operate. So you might want to, take a look at that video 34. Okay. So then this is for entertainment purposes only, obviously. All right, so here we go. We're gonna start with my title, The Big Fat Lies and Whoppers. Because we have been swimming in a dark sea of lies since 45 took office, and the lies have been actually pretty effective. There's a whole group of people that are very gullible, suggestible, and if it's repeated enough and if they're scared enough, they go in this direction. And it has become the new GOP strategy for the most part. So I believe, this is what my left ear believes, that Trump took office and then people who were in the GOP, who were on the fringe, on the edge, may be greedy, shallow, ambitious, and he taught them that they could win through blatant lies and crazy, insane stories and accusations. And so it became a shared psychosis, and that's what I meant with the title. The desperate GOP took the lessons and started creating fear. Now, there are members of the GOP that might be considered like more normal and less radical. I don't know why I'm thinking about Murkowski from Alaska. Doesn't seem nuts to me. I may not agree with her, but she seems pretty sane. And there's others. So there's these kind of two factions. With the news sort of presents that every single person in the GOP is insane, and I don't understand them, but I don't think they're insane. So aside from the normies, there are these exceptions, and there are these members that, I want to use this word loosely, are psychotic, really troubled. In the world of psychology, you would call them cluster B clients. That would be Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, who I like to call Bobo. Gosar was very instrumental, and he promised pardons to people that were participating. Mo Brooks, Louis Gohmert, Madison Cawthorn, Andy Biggs. And then we do know that Mark Meadows, even though he's not a voting member of the Congress, was very instrumental and involved. We have to wait and find out how. He's been subpoenaed, as you probably know, and he got a really good attorney. I was watching Brian Williams last night, I think it was last night, and Ashley Parker from the New York Times said that it is widely known in DC circles that Mark Meadows lies chronically. He lies for any reason. He lies on a dime. And he also, on the inside, is considered the worst chief of staff in history. That's, quite an accomplishment, right? So he claims he's showing up and doesn't want what's happened to Bannon. So he's playing some games. This is what my left ear thinks. But he's going to try and dodge the critical questions about Trump by claiming the fifth. But I don't see a good future for him, and I don't see him getting out of this with a clean slate at all, because what he's trying to do is avoid Bannon's trajectory and stay in good stead with Donald Trump. He's not going to be able to pull that off. So he's going to continue to avoid and con the January 6th committee and then try to stay aligned with Trump. It won't work. He won't be able to do it. I think my left ear thinks that Meadows is going to be recommended as a hostile witness. So we will see. I didn't throw runes on that. Some of the predictions today are just coming straight from my left ear, but I did throw a couple of runes that I personally was interested in, and I'm hoping that you are too. So the first rune that I threw was about Kevin McCarthy, because everybody knows that he desperately wants to become the Speaker of the House. So the runes were very interesting. I'm just going to tell you, the answer I got was no, he's not going to become Speaker of the House. So I'm going to tell you that up front. But what I did get was, this is the rune called Defense. And guess what? I got it twice, which is, this will happen. So I got it the first throw, the second throw, and then I got our answer on the third throw. But I just want to read to you. Defense says, as we are tested, we fund the power to avert blockage and defeat. It says perseverance and foresight are called for. Now, this is a foresight. None of the GOP have foresight. It's really weird. It's like that part of their, I think it's the frontal lobe, is just not operating. The Democrats have a lot of foresight, I would say. But here's the message. Through inconvenience and discomfort, growth is promoted. So that message came twice. First throw, second throw, defense. I'm going to repeat. As we are tested, that would be the Democrats, we fund the power to avert blockage and defeat. All right, so that is good news. But the final rune is what really got me excited. It's the rune of joy. Joy. That's where I got the answer. Joy also represents the light. It tells us that the term of travail has ended, that we can freely receive new blessings, material or emotional, and it is the rune of restoration. So I'm calling that, and we'll see what happens, okay? We don't want Kevin McCarthy to run the House, and he's really on a bad, he's on a bad one. So then the next rune that I pulled, which was interesting to me, was, will Marjorie Taylor Greene re-win her seat in 22 against Democrat Marcus Flowers? Again, I got no, she won't win. So we got some interesting ones with her. We got the rune of the self, and this is what it looks like when it's reversed. It's upside down. And the wisdom here says, if you are blocked, look inside for the enemy of your progress. And that describes Marjorie Taylor Greene. She is the enemy of her own progress, and she has no insight. She is not capable of looking inside. She's not well. She's in that cluster B. I can't, I'm not qualified. Nobody's qualified without meeting her, but I want to say she's very disturbed. Then this second rune is often upsets people, but it's the blank rune. There's nothing on either side. So it kind of leaves people feeling a little vulnerable, but it's about what's unknowable. But it does say this rune, the blank one, represents the beginning and the end, or the end and the beginning. Okay, so it's very either or, the end and the beginning. It can portend a death, which would be symbolic. And based on the third rune, I'm saying this symbolic death is the power being ripped away from Marjorie Taylor Greene in Congress. And it brings to the surface her deepest fears of losing. And she has no answer here. It's blank. But the third one is beautiful. It is the rune of harvest. And I know that I've pulled this before on the channel because harvest is interesting. It says it's a fertile season in 1 year, which is very literal, correct? It's a harvest. It's about beneficial outcomes. Well, there's no way that Marjorie Taylor Greene wins and it's considered a beneficial outcome. So it looks like Marcus Flowers, her Democratic opponent, is going to beat her. Now, the other thing I might bring up, I probably have it in my notes later, but it's coming to mind right this minute, and that is, what was I going to say? Beat her. Oh, I know what I was going to say. That in terms of the investigation to January 6th and the group of congressional people that were deeply involved in the planning and participating, some of them I think are going to be indicted before the midterms. And then that's going to create openings. And I believe, my left ear believes, that the Dems are going to get a couple of more seats in Congress because of the seditionists. We will see. Okay, so moving on. I want to talk about this. I don't know a lot about the stock market, but I follow Tom Joseph religiously. He's got a podcast, and we're friends on Twitter. And he knows a lot about the market and finances. So he has been passionately talking about what he calls Trump's pump and dump. I talked about this a few weeks ago, that there's this organization, business, DWAC, that began at $9 a share, but when it allegedly merged with Trump Media Technology Group, nobody knows what that is, by the way, not Tom Joseph, not Elizabeth Warren, because she's on this also. It went from $9 a share to $175 a share. And I don't know what market cap means, but Tom says that it had a market cap of $6 billion at the time. So now insiders or worriers began to sell, and that's the dump. And they sold when it was high, and they made a lot of money. Not necessarily legally, because there's all kinds of questions about this. Now it's gone down to $40 a share, from $175 now down to $40. It'll probably keep dropping, and it is expected to drop. So those who did not dump lost a lot of money. They put a lot of faith in Trump, like a lot of people do, and they lost a lot of money. So right now, and disturbingly, the Securities and Exchange Commission and or the Federal Trade Commission do not appear to be investigating. But Elizabeth Warren has been very outspoken about this, and she's like a wonderful pit bull. She will not let go. So I'm very encouraged by that, but not yet. But if you want to Google pump and dump the stock market, there'll be more of an explanation for that. So it's just one more criminal event for Trump to make money. I mean, that he's like just a corrupt one-man money-making enterprise, and always has been. Now I'm moving on, because today the Supreme Court is taking up an abortion case concerning Mississippi law prohibiting abortions after 15 weeks of pregnancy. And this was challenged successfully by Mississippi's only abortion clinic. So this is landmark. And it's the first time the Supreme Court has agreed to hear such a case. Now, Texas has this, 6-week rule, and Mississippi has this 15-week rule. But the feeling is that everything's hanging on this Mississippi case, and all eyes are watching SCOTUS. Now, just a factoid, 27% of Americans are against Roe v. Wade, vast minority. 73% of Americans are for maintaining Roe v. Wade. That's a very high, that's just a big disparity. My left ear does not think Roe v. Wade is going to be overturned. And I'm going to tell you where this is coming from. When the Supreme Court did not shut down Texas or the vigilantes making, that can make money if they find out someone has had an abortion, when they didn't do that, there was a big outcry among people. And 2 justices came forward and made speeches, which is unheard of. And they didn't want to be misunderstood, and they didn't want to be judged, and they didn't want people to think they were partisan. One of the people was Amy Coney Barrett, and I think the other judge was, gag me, Justice Thomas, whose wife paid for buses to get to the insurrection, and so far she hasn't been called. She hasn't been mentioned. Yeah. So what I feel that the Supreme Court is very aware that if they turn this around, Roe v. Wade, if they mess with it, there will be a revolution. And I'm not exaggerating. There will be a revolution. Now, there is a Democratic senator named Jean Shaheen. She's from New Hampshire. And she also said, she predicted Monday that there would be a revolution if the Supreme Court overturned its landmark Roe v. Wade decision, as the justices prepare to hear arguments in this highly anticipated case starting today. I quoted her, she said, "I hope the Supreme Court is listening to the people of the United States, because I think if you want to see a revolution, go ahead, outlaw Roe v. Wade, and see what the response is from the public." I just think they're very aware of this. And she said, particularly young people, because they are not like, my age, where they remember before Roe v. Wade. The young people know nothing else, and this has been available to them. Choice over their own body has been available to them, and then all of a sudden it's ripped away, or it could be. But my left ear doesn't think so. And then Justice Breyer, B-R-E-Y-E-R, Breyer, I think, who's been a part of the Supreme Court for years and years, he said something, he talked about something that all good attorneys talk about, and that is the absolute importance of precedent in law. that precedent should be everything, and they're always looking at precedent, or should be looking at precedent. So SCOTUS would be changing precedent. They would be agreeing to change precedent. Judge Breyer, it was just good that he came out and spoke. And then Justice Sotomayor is like totally against abandoning Roe v. Wade. She was against what they did in Texas, and she wrote about it and talked about it. So I'm just going to double check here. SCOTUS is aware of the Texas outrage. 2 justices made public statements trying to preserve the reputation of the courts, which is wobbly. People don't trust them, and they know it. And I think that's going to affect the outcome. I didn't even throw runes on it. This is just in me. I noticed, it's my left ear, I noticed on Twitter, because I follow and connected to some really smart people, informed people, that I'm not the only one that thinks this. You know what the solution is to the voting problem? The solution is vote by mail for every single state in the union. That's it. Vote by mail. No gerrymandering, no redistricting. Vote by mail. Now, that's a hard one to pull off, but my left ear is telling you that's what we all should be doing. That's the safest way without the interference. Now, all over the news, and I didn't really want to start with this, is this new virus offshoot of COVID-19. Intuitively, my left ear wants to say, just wait before you go panic. Massive amounts of people are working on this right now. These brilliant scientists, they came up with vaccines in record time, like extraordinarily fast. And they know a lot now. And they're going into this virus, and they're going to know more. The labs are swift and they're brilliant. Now, people are saying, we don't know if it's in the United States yet. My left ear thinks it is in the United States right now, but it has not been detected, and it will be detected. And I'm not saying that to scare you. I'm actually not like real shook up and frightened right now. I'm watching it. And that's what everybody should do. Make sure you have your vaccine, your booster, and you wear your mask, and you don't hug people, and you don't go into crowded restaurants. You just keep doing what you've been doing until we know more. The other day, my left ear said to me, we are so out of balance in the US. Like, okay, that's not brilliant, but it just kept coming back and coming back. And so part of, the GOP is still the minority, but part of them is so banking on Trump. Nobody's brought this question up. What if Trump dies before 2024? What if he becomes disabled for some reason before 2024? Then what? Seriously, what happens to this group that has made Donald Trump their savior, their Buddha, their mafia don, whatever? Will there be a power grab? I just really wonder this, and it may be the reason I'm wondering is my left ear might be niggling me and saying, hey, this is a prediction. They're going to lose him. They're going to lose his ability to run, whether he's here or not here on planet Earth. Claire McCaskill, who I really like, who's on MSNBC, and boy, she's a pistol. She just speaks the truth, and she has a way with words. I really like her. She's really sharp. She called the GOP the party of death. And the reason she did, of course, is because they're letting people die. They're, the Tucker Carlsons and the this and that, they're like giving. The word disinformation, I'm really sick of it, by the way. They're lying. Let's just not use the word disinformation. It's so weak. It doesn't hit the point, but people are using it. I like to say lie. They're lying. And my left ear said to me, you know, the GOP and churches, they seek power, money, and domination. That's really it. It's not about the constituents, but the constituents, many of them don't realize that. It's not about them at all. They just want their votes. Here's a my left ear prediction. Keeps coming up, so I'm going to share it with you, that at least one indictment will drop on Donald Trump before January 1st, 22. As I said before, this is where the note is that I had said earlier, that some of these members of Congress that are seditionists will be indicted, maybe before the midterms. And then that will change the balance of the votes in Congress. And we believe the Dems are going to maintain the majority. If you listen to the news, many of the journalists don't agree with me. There's a lot of fear, but we're just going with our own truth here, people. And then I'm just going to bring this up because the Ghislaine Maxwell trial began. It's getting a lot of coverage. They had a victim who was co-opted at the age of 14 on the stand yesterday. And they had the pilot for the jet, Lolita Express, that Epstein took friends to his island, to New Mexico, to Parte. And the pilot said Trump was on the plane, Bill Clinton was on the plane, the prince was on the plane, Edward, is it Prince Edward? That's just weird guy who's fighting everything. John Glenn and Kevin Spacey. And I don't know why Kevin Spacey was there, because he's really not considered heterosexual, but I just made a joke and said he was there to watch. I think there'd be more names involved. I think this was just the beginning. And I think the pilot lied too, because he said he never saw anything sexual. He has 2 daughters, and if he did, but he flew the plane for years and years and years and years and years. I just don't know that he was telling the truth. We will find out more. I also, and I have to admit to you, I don't know that if this is my left ear, but I keep having a repetitive thought that somehow, some way, Ghislaine is going to get acquitted. I know that sounds crazy. She's got great attorneys because she can afford great attorneys. We'll keep an eye, we'll keep an eye on it. Let me talk briefly about kindness. I was they put a Starbucks in my local grocery store, and I made an order, and then I shopped, and I came back to get the order, and there was a man at the end who they handed a cup of coffee to, but he looked really ragged around the edges, and his pants were like dropping below his shorts. He was wearing shorts, and he was disheveled. And then as he walked away, he was kind of yelling something to the barista. I can't remember. It wasn't like swearing or anything. I just can't remember the phrase, but it wasn't like political and it wasn't swearing, but he kept repeating it and he was yelling it like, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. I think that's what he was saying. So I thought he was abusing this nice girl. And I said, I'm so sorry that you have to deal with that. And she goes, oh, no. He has Tourette's syndrome and he cleans our windows and we give him free coffee every day. How much did I love that? They give him free coffee every day and they talk to him and they tell him, have a good day. I was very touched by that. And I misunderstood. I went to Best Buy because I had some monumental problems with my computer. Someone gave me advice and it wiped out a lot of passwords and all kinds of stuff. And then I went to call them so they could screen share with me, and that system went down and they were unable to screen share with me. And they said, you probably need to make an appointment and go over there. So I did. But in the meantime, I just went into my computer and went, let me see if I can fix any of this. And I did fix some of it. But I went to Best Buy, got a great, the Geek Squad is really good. They really hire good people. And so this guy comes out and he's like looking, and things were going on. He finally got up and running. And I said to him, I fixed some of this, but blah, 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 blah. And he looked at me, and he was young, and he said, I want to tell you something. You know more than you think you know. It was kind of like getting therapy at Best Buy. This kid was so great. And then he said, I don't want you to leave until you feel like this has been handled. They do get evaluated, but this guy was really sweet. It was just who he is. So, I gave him an incredible review. Okay, now we're going to get to, there's one quote today, and it's a good one. And I heard it from a man named Miles Taylor, who was a former government official in both the Bush and the Trump administrations. In the Trump administration, he was appointed to the United States Department of Homeland Security from 2017 to 2019, including Chief of Staff of the Department of Homeland Security. Now, here's what's interesting. Miles Taylor, listen up. In 2018, after being appointed DHS Deputy Chief of Staff, Taylor wrote an op-ed for the New York Times that was entitled, I am part of the resistance inside the Trump administration. And he called himself Anonymous. And nobody knew who Anonymous was. People were guessing like crazy. And in 2019, he left the administration and went to work for Google. But he is a contributor on MSNBC. He's not a part of the GOP. He's fighting the good fight to get Trump out of there, and he's full of information. So he was on with Nicole Wallace, and he said something like, Nicole, you and I have talked about this, but I keep coming back to General Ulysses S. Grant, who helped win the Civil War. And when Grant was asked, will there ever be another civil war or uprising in the future, that was generally the question. I'm probably misstating it a little bit. He said, and this is going to be my last thing of the day, he said, it's never going to be about the Mason-Dixon line. It's going to be between patriotism and intelligence on one side, and superstition, ambition, and ignorance on the other side. My question is, how did General Grant know this such a long time ago? It's pretty amazing, isn't it? All right, my friends, I will be back. I still want to make a video about Texas and Matthew Dowd. I have a burning desire to do that, so that may be my next video, and that'll be before 7 days are up. That's my intention. So go out there, look for some good evidence, please. Create some good evidence. That's easy to do. And make peace. Make memories. So you take care. And hold the faith, okay? Hold the faith.